Welcome back to Legalese 123, where we are covering cases across America. Hello, and welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Legalese 123. I'm your host, Missy K. I hope you're doing fabulous on this Friday. It is May the 8th. How's everybody doing out there? We are live. We are live on the tubes of you. We're live on the Facebook, and I'm also live on the Tickety Talk. Hello, everybody. Hello. Well, what's going on? Well, I'm trying to figure out how to do this platform and how to do all of these cases and everything for everybody all at the same time. And well, it's always a challenge. I'm up for a challenge, right? So I got a new sort of tripod for the Tickety Talk camera. And well, let's just say it may not be going as well as I anticipated, but it's okay. I'm trying to stay focused and trying to be over here, but whatever. All right. Well, law lovies, I have a bit of disappointing news for you today. Remember how we were like, we're going to cover the Brendan Banfield sentencing and hear what Judge Penny has to say. Well, they postponed it. Yeah, law is fluid, law is dynamic. They postponed it, blah, 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 blah. Here we are. No coverage, no sentencing hearing today. It has been postponed until June the 5th. So mark your calendars for June the 5th, Brendan Banfield sentencing hearing on June the 5th. I know, so sad. I was hoping that we would sort of like end the week on a high note and just be like, it didn't happen. But that's okay, because we have a great show today. And when I say great show today, there is so much going on. I took yesterday off because I was like, nothing's really going to happen, right? There's a I'll see if I can show this to you. There is a children's there is a children's book that had been animated. Oh, don't do that. I don't want to get docked. There is a children's animation book. It's called Kipper the Dog. And he is super lovely. And I'll add this. Ta-da, there he is. I cannot play the song because it's like, it's proprietary song stuff. But let's see if I can get to the part where he's like having a boring day. And then let's see if he always says, putting on his galoshes. He's bored.
Happens, Hippo.
Okay, here goes.
Nothing ever happens, Hippo.
Nothing ever happens.
Really happens.
Nothing ever really happens. Nothing really ever happens, right? And then poof, you're off one day and the horse is out of the barn and everything happens. But that's okay. Sometimes you have to do things in real life and you have to take care of yourself and your family and stuff. So this is a word of the wise to you. If you ever need to just go ahead and take the day off, you take the day off. All right. So what happened yesterday? Well, Karen Reed had a hearing yesterday. Well, first of all, I just said, but most people didn't watch. Brendan Banfield, unfortunately, is not being sentenced today. They asked for more time, so that won't be until June 5th. Boo-hoo, wah, 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 wah. So mark your calendars, June 5th. And if you follow me, I'll keep you updated. All right, so Karen Reeves had a hearing yesterday. And I was like, well, they had a hearing just like a day before that. So, like, really, what's the big deal, right? Oh, no, 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 no. And I will tell you, moving forward, I will not skip any of these. So, luckily, it's always televised or someone's recording it. And so we have it. So, we're going to watch it together. I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. So if you're joining me on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. If you want to see what we're watching or what I'm displaying, hop on over to YouTube and we'll go from there. Otherwise, I'll keep you informed as to what is going on. Well, let's go ahead and share this. So as you know, the judge this is John O'Keefe is suing Karen Reed for wrongful death. There are other suits that are taking place, right? We know those other suits. Karen Reed is suing a whole bunch of other people. The other people are suing Karen Reed, Nate and Carney, la, 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 la. Many, many, many suits. And reminder, the only people getting rich in all this are the lawyers. But anyways, it makes for fun banter. All right. So I heard about this hearing, and so we're going to watch it together. Now, just remember, the judge in this case is very spicy. And when I say very spicy, he claps back. And apparently he clapped back, and everybody, unfortunately, likes when he claps back at Mark Diller, and he did. So, if you're joining me on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. We're going to watch the video on YouTube. So if you want to hop over there, happy to have you over there. If not, we'll talk about it. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the matter before the court is civil action number 2483, CV 00692, Paul O'Keefe, individually and personal representative of the estate of John Joseph O'Keefe III et al. Versus CNC Hospitality LLC, doing business as C&F McCarthy et al. Your Honor, for the plaintiff, we have attorney Mark Diller present by Zoom. For defendant C&F McCarthy, we have attorney Tamara Holtzag. For defendant Waterfall, we have attorney John Dealey and David Hassett, I believe, or maybe just one of them.
It's just John Dealey today, madam.
Thank you.
There are 5.
And for defendant Reed, we have attorney Sarah Shipley and attorney Aaron Rosenberg, Your Honor.
There are 5 lawyers.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, so if you're joining me live on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. We're going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday, and apparently it's pretty spicy. And I keep telling everybody, the only people who are getting rich are the lawyers. So, there are 5 attorneys on this case right now. And remember, there were about 5 attorneys the other day. And let's just say on average, the average lawyer gets, we'll say, $500 an hour. And I know this was less than, this hearing is only like 18 minutes, right? 5 lawyers, they don't charge by the minute, they charge by the hour. 5 lawyers, $500 an hour. So 5 times 5 is 25. So it's about $2,500 at a minimum that's being charged for this. All right, here we go.
So when we were last together on April 9th, at that point, I think not a single deposition had taken place other than keeper record depositions. And
okay, so the judge just said, hey, the last time we met, which was April 9th, the last thing that you guys were talking about is depositions, and no depositions have taken place. And Judge G is not happy about that. He's hoping that this case moves forward, and it's not. And just FYI, in civil cases, they don't go quickly. And just remember how many witnesses there are going to be. If you talk about Karen Reed trial 1 and Karen Reed trial 2, you go ahead and add all of those people in. How many depositions is that? And then remember, I also said, not only do you have to have that person in the room, that person may also have their lawyer in the room, and then all of these lawyers as well. Money, 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 money.
I concede that Now, this case has been pending for 619 days.
Oh,
And-
he said this case has been pending for 619 days. Now, it was stayed because John O'Keefe's family had to file the they had to file the lawsuit while the Karen Reed trial was happening because of statute of limitations. So they filed it way back when she was, hang on. Boy, had a tickle in my throat. They filed this way back when she had her criminal case, but it couldn't move forward until the criminal case was over and resolved.
I acknowledge that for 231 of those days, over 7 months, the case was subject to what was a very limited stay as to discovery involving Ms. Reed.
I should just be quiet. So he said about 230 some days it was stayed. So he knows that.
And depositions of certain of her family members. But that stay expired over 10 months ago.
Expired
it,
10
in
months
July?
ago.
So coming up on a year. And I tried to figure out how a case that's been pending for so long could have so few depositions conducted. And one possible answer came when I was looking at the docket. Did you know that the parties are represented by a total of 22 lawyers in this case?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to pat myself on the back. Did you hear that? You didn't hear that. So if you're just joining me, I'm going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. I'm live on YouTube if you want to hop over there and watch it with me. And I was just talking about how many lawyers are on this case. And the judge just said that there are 22 lawyers on this case. So when I talk to you about how much this is costing, now let's talk about it. We have to do the quick math. My phone's being used by this. 22 lawyers times 500. Okay, that's a lot. I can't do the quick math. But anyways, can you just I can't make this up.
Ms. Reed leads the pack with 10.
Ms. Reed has 10 lawyers.
Distant second with 5.
Plaintiffs have
Waterfall
5.
has 4, and McCarthy's
Waterfall
had to
has
try
4.
and get by with
And
only 3.
McCarthy's
But then I
is
thought
only
of the
3.
attorneys that are involved in the case, and they're all experienced lawyers, and so they can't be the reason that the case has been pending so long with so few
Experienced lawyers.
depositions taking place. Then I thought, well, maybe
Why
it's
is this
the
taking
issues
so
in the
long?
case are so complex. But I think, as we all recognize, when
Maybe
you
the
cut to
issues
the
in the
core
case
of
are
this case,
complex.
it's a wrongful death action with a dram.
Right. When you cut to the chase of this case in Karen Reed, it is a wrongful death case. Now, Judge G, we appreciate you, but there's more complexities involved in this case than just a wrongful death suit, right? Oh, all right.
Off
see what it is.
component and a claim of negligence in the operation of a motor vehicle. So it's really not that
Negligence of a
complex.
motor
And when I
vehicle.
say that, I'm not trying to minimize the claim of the plaintiffs or the defendants.
If you're just joining me live on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. We're going over Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. And the judge, before he begins, is giving them a lashing, a tongue lashing. He gives many tongue lashings, but he's giving the lawyers a tongue lashing as to why is this case taking so long, and he doesn't understand why. There are 22 lawyers on this case, and there has been like 0 depositions. Actually, there was one the other day.
Of the defendants. So we're here for a status on discovery. So I'd like to hear from each party as to what
Okay,
depositions
what's the status of
they have
discovery?
conducted, those
What
that they have
depositions?
noticed,
Ones
and
have
those
noticed,
that are intended.
and those that
And
are
I
intended.
thought maybe we'd go in the order of the number of attorneys that a party has. So we'll start with the least, and we'll start with McCarthy.
He said we're going to go in order of the number of attorneys you have, and we're starting from the bottom up. So those who have the least amount of attorneys are going to start. Probably because he realizes that the one that has the most, which is Karen Reed, is probably the one who's going to talk the most. Oh, this is so funny. If you're joining me live on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. We're going over the Karen Reed hearing.
Oh,
We lose
okay.
McCarthy's?
I believe
Uh-oh.
you did, Your Honor.
Well, let's go to Waterfall.
All right, Waterfall
Daly?
Bar.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. On behalf of Waterfall, we have noticed some depositions that are scheduled for July because so many depositions had already been scheduled. But we have not taken any depositions yet. We did participate in the deposition that took place, I think, on Tuesday. In this case, we have depositions scheduled of a witness from one of the bars where Miss Reed was present, as well as the toxicologist for the Massachusetts State Police, Trooper Roberts, or none of it's Trooper Roberts, Dr. Roberts, also scheduled in July.
Okay.
Okay. So the attorney for the Waterfall Bar who was talking about like the okay. So the attorney for the Waterfall Bar just said, "Okay, listen, we participated in the deposition that took place on Tuesday." And spoiler alert, I think it was Steve Scanlon. And I'll talk about him in just a second. And then he said there was a witness from the bar that's scheduled for July, as well as Dr. Roberts, who is the toxicologist. Okay, so remember what I said was remember how many people they're going to have to depose. All of the people that were at Waterfall, all the people at CF McCarthy's, all of the people that were inside the house, and all of the ancillary players, all of the troopers, all of Canton PD, Karen Reed herself, Aiden Carney's going to be deposed in this as well. I think he's scheduled for July. So I think so. If you know the Karen Reed case, please forgive me. I don't know all of the players. There's so many people. But I believe Steve Scanlon, correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But Steve Scanlon was the one that I believe that his daughter was somehow involved in something. She was either at, I think she was at 34 Fairview and she left. And I want to say Steve Scanlon made a statement at some point in time that he kind of knew what had happened. And do you remember Aiden Carney was trying to contact him, and he was sitting in some office. I don't know, maybe the town of Canton office. And Aiden Carney went and sort of ambushed him and put a video on him and said, "Steve, do you know about this? And Steve, do you know about that?" And apparently Steve might have made a statement early on and then like recanted his statement. So that's been sort of in controversy, but he's been the first one that has been deposed. And as we know earlier this week, Mr. Rosenberg, who is this lawyer here at the top, he stated that one of the biggest things that in this deposition was a false narrative, is what he kept saying. And we're going to hear that a lot with the Karen Reed case, right? We totally know that there's been a lot of false narratives, because nobody knows really exactly what happened. Remember, there are like 15 sides to a story. All right, let's continue.
So let's hang on and see if we can get McCarthy's back on.
Your Honor, it looks like Attorney Holzlag has signed in. Her camera's just not on at the moment.
Can you hear us, Attorney Holzag?
I can, Your Honor. Can you hear me?
Yes. So
Okay.
I don't know how much you heard of that, but what I'm hearing from each party is to what depositions they have conducted, those that they have noticed, and those that they have intended. So
Thank
go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Pardon me, I got. So we have to send out today or tomorrow the deposition for two.
Attorney Holzag, you're kind of breaking up. I don't know if everyone else is hearing the same thing.
Hold on, let me
And the
log
trial
back
court,
off and come back
the trial court wants us to do more things by Zoom,
in.
which is shocking to me, given what happens all the time.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
see
They
if I
say
can
that-
bounce out and come back in.
Okay. While we're waiting for her, they say that the bar wants it. How about all of the members of the bar that are on this Zoom call? Do you want more Zoom and more virtual appearances?
No.
we're okay with,
Attorney Rosenberg.
we're agreeable to the virtual appearances, and there's time and place for us to have in-person appearances as well, Your Honor.
All right,
do
so
you
the
think-
judge, oh my God, the judge is conduct. Oh my gosh! If you're just joining me, we're talking about the Karen Reed case. I'm live on YouTube. We're watching the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. It's really the John O'Keefe hearing, but nobody knows that. Nobody cares about that. Anyways, so the judge is conducting a survey with all of the parties and he says, they're having problems with connectivity with CF McCarthy's, and she's trying to answer the judge, and she is lagging. And so the judge is like, well, the Bar Association would like for us to have more Zoom meetings. And so he's taking a poll with the current lawyers who are on there and said, would you guys like to continue having Zoom meetings, or do you like to have them in person? And Rosenberg said no. And Mark Diller's like, yes, we would continue to like to have the Zoom meetings, but we also need, where Zoom is appropriate, we'd also like to have it in the courtroom. And the judge is still conducting an inquiry with the rest of them.
Appearances as well, Your Honor.
How do you think young lawyers are going to learn if they're just sitting on a screen?
How do you think young lawyers are going to learn if they're just sitting on a screen? That's what he said. But do you think that, so that's a great question. That's a question of the day. Do you think that Zoom hearings should happen? So do you think hearings should happen on Zoom? I would venture to guess a lot of lawyers probably say yes. They probably can get a whole lot more done in a Zoom meeting in their office than having to get up, obviously get really dressed up, right? Because you're supposed to be super dressed up for court. And then, park, etc. Especially if these things are happening like downtown Boston or whatever, right? You got to find parking. Think about how much, and all that's billed to your clients, right? So think about how much they can get done if they're sitting in their office. So let me know in the chat what you think. Do you think that it's good that lawyers can have Zoom hearings that are certain, when I say nothing burger meetings, than having to get up and go in court every time?
But anyways, Attorney Holstag, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Is there still feedback, Judge?
It's gone now, so go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that we have ready to go today or tomorrow the deposition notices and subpoenas to two of the patrons of Waterfall. We've been coordinating with counsel for Waterfall, who also have an interest in those two witnesses, as well as with plaintiff's counsel. We also are going to notice the deposition of one of the patrons of our own bar. And then in addition to that, we've been in constant, or I should say frequent contact with plaintiff's counsel, Mr. Diller, as to the scheduling of 4 witnesses on behalf of CF McCarthy's, which are scheduled for May, June, and July, and we're working on dates that work for all the witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. Attorney Diller, on behalf of the plaintiff.
Okay, so the lawyer for CF McCarthy's, she was talking about who they have for depositions, and I'm sorry, she didn't have any. Okay, she's like, oh, we're interested in the 2 patrons from the Waterfall, one of them from our own bar. We have 4 witnesses that are going to be scheduled May, June, July. They're not scheduled.
Plaintiffs?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mark Diller, what's up?
At this stage, plaintiff has taken the deposition of Stephen Scanlon. We've served 13 notices of deposition, 3 to occur in May. Karen Reed is noticed for June 19th. Aidan Carney is scheduled in July. We've got a pending motion to intervene in the Norfolk Superior Court to enforce our subpoena to enter into a protective order and get access to Mr. Carney's digital evidence. On February 11th,
Okay. Mark Diller is talking, and Mark Diller is talking about who he has subpoenaed so far. So they did go ahead and get the deposition of Steve Scanlon. That was already done. There are 13 notices that have been sent out. 3 of them are scheduled for the month of May. Karen Reed is scheduled for June 19th, and Aiden Carney is scheduled for July. They do have a notice of appearance for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to get Aiden Carney and Karen Reed's communications under a protective order. There was a proposed motion by Norfolk District Attorney's Office in Aiden Carney's case, and I don't know what's going to go on with that. Apparently, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, it's hilarious. So let's talk about the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. When it came to Michael Proctor and everybody trying to get their phone, they're like, no, you can't have any communication with him whatsoever. And people had to fight tooth and nail to get any of Proctor's communications, even though it was exculpatory evidence in all of these cases, right? And we'll go over that in just a minute, because if you see on my topic list today, we're talking about Myles King later on, and we'll go into that in just a bit. But here it is, Aiden Carney, who is being charged with witness intimidation. And they're like, hey, we want communications. The Norfolk District Attorney's like, sure, here you go. So that goes to show you is there's some things that they want to hide, and there's some things you're just like, yeah, sure, here you go. Do you think there needs to be a change in the Norfolk District Attorney's Office?
26, Your Honor, the defendant should enter into a protective order and get access to Mr. Carney's digital evidence. On February 11th, 2026, Your Honor, the defendant Reed noticed 19 depositions and scheduled them for specific dates. Plaintiff blocked off all of those dates and prepared for such depositions at that time.
Okay, Attorney Diller, let me, I'll give you the chance if you want to complain about something, but right now I just want to.
You're just joining me. I'm going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. I'm also live on YouTube if you want to join me over there. We're going over the Karen Reed hearing. The judge is upset. The judge in this case is very upset because there's been no movement in this case. And depositions are step 1, right? And so he's going through each one of the lawyers, asking about depositions, etc. And Mark Diller had his opportunity, and he was very good at the beginning telling about what's going on. And then he's like, on February 11th, Your Honor, Mr. Rosenberg, who is Karen Reed's attorney, said that there was going to be 19 depositions and that we were scheduled for this and this and that. And we set aside our calendar, and he was getting ready to spout off how upset he was, and the judge cut him off. The judge said, I'll give you a moment to complain, but that your complaint time, this is not the complaint portion of the hearing. So he wants to go around to each one of the lawyers to find out how depositions are going. Mark Diller was already spouting off about something, and he cut him off. This judge is super spicy, and I love it.
Know what depositions you've taken, those that have been noticed, and those you intend on taking.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Attorney Rosenberg, on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Mr. Rosenberg is up.
We've scheduled, we have noticed, I believe, a total of 15 or 16 depositions. We had, I believe, 2 that were supposed to go forward that witnesses were unavailable for, that we rescheduled. And we recently rescheduled some of the remaining depositions that we had previously noticed as a result of scheduling changes and the way that discovery has proceeded. We've got the most of our depositions relate to the one claim that Your Honor didn't mention when you were discussing the case, which is the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim against Ms. Reed, which relates to what the plaintiffs deem a false narrative. And the defense to that, obviously one of the defenses, is that that's not a false narrative. So a lot of these witnesses relate to that quote unquote narrative. And so I would just say, I don't think it's as simple. And in fact, as the plaintiff has argued, it's not quite as simple.
Okay. Hey guys, if you're just joining me, we're going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday, and I'm live on YouTube as well. So if you want to hop over there, same channel, Legalese123. We're going over the Karen Reed hearing, and the judge in the beginning wanted all of the lawyers to tell them the status of the hearing and what was happening. We are on Karen Reed's lawyer, Mr. Rosenberg. And Mr. Rosenberg is stating that he had two subpoenas. So he had a notice of 15 to 16 depots that were going to go out. 2 were supposed to go forward. They became unavailable. They had to reschedule. There's been some scheduling changes, and with the discovery coming in, etc., which is just a big like cloud of smoke of, hey, judge, nothing's going on, right? We got nothing, judge. We got nothing. And then Mr. Rosenberg sidestep what the judge wants to talk about, and he's talking about, Judge, Your Honor, in the beginning of the statement, you said that this was just a negligence case, but it goes beyond just a negligence case. It's also talking about emotional confliction of harm or something of that nature, and that it goes to a false narrative, and that means that Karen Reed and Amy Carney had a false narrative, and that then caused the plaintiff to have emotional harm, right? And Mr. Rosenberg is arguing, stating that that is also a point of contention for them that they're trying to get, as well as when they're deposing witnesses. And he's just spouting off about the false narrative. So I'm going to go back just a second here. He's talking out of turn, but the judge hasn't interrupted him just yet.
That quote unquote narrative. And so I would just say, I don't think it's as simple. And in fact, as the plaintiff has argued, it's not quite as simple as just a wrongful death claim because of the way that the plaintiff's pleaded. So we've got them all, we have them scheduled, I believe.
Okay, so Mr. Rosenberg said, listen, Judge, it's not just as easy as you think it is. This is just not a wrongful death case. It's not just that simple, is basically what he was saying.
Mr. Diller said Ms. Reed is currently scheduled June 19th or so. I think most of, if not all of our depositions surround that date and finish up at the very beginning of July. As Mr. Deely said, I think that's when they've noticed the depositions that they need.
And you mentioned 2 depositions that had to be rescheduled because of scheduling issues?
It was either 1 or 2. I think it was 2. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. One was a third-party witness who the witness's counsel indicated was unavailable. I actually believe there were 2 of them. Again, off the top of my head, so I could be wrong, but I believe it was 2 third-party witnesses whose counsel reached out before the deposition.
Okay, so the judge was like, okay, you had 2 depositions. He's talking to Attorney Rosenberg. So if you're just joining me on, we're talking about the Karen Reed hearing. I'm also live on YouTube if you wanted to join me over there. Rosenberg is talking about the 2 depositions that he was supposed to take, and people rescheduled. Who are those people? Spoiler alert, I know one of them.
Requested a new date, and we accommodated.
Were you able to get today's deposition done in the 5 hours we had?
Okay. Here we go. Who was scheduled for today's deposition? That was yesterday. So remember the last time, I don't want to spoil it because it's going to come up. Last time they met, they're like, okay, when would you like to schedule again? And they're like, oh, well, we have a deposition on this day. It's going to take all day. So can we go ahead and schedule our meeting later on in the afternoon? So who was it, and did it happen?
Well, no, that deposition was rescheduled. And
that deposition was rescheduled.
That's the answer.
You missed it. Mr. Rosenberg's face was like, that one was rescheduled. Okay, I'm going to back it up just a smidge.
In the 5 hours we allocated?
Well, no, that deposition was rescheduled. And I, yeah, that's the answer.
So someone answer
Who?
for me, how many depositions have actually taken place since April 9th?
One.
One. Okay.
Oh my gosh, the judge just said how many depositions were taken in since April 9th, and they're like, one. Mr. Diller and I at the same time, one, judge, one deposition. Right? It's like the count in Sesame Street. One judge, one deposition, judge. How many more do you have to go? Gazillion. There are gazillion depositions that need to take place. Oh,
Attorney Diller, I cut you off. You were about to convey some information
okay.
or
Diller's
thoughts.
back
to me,
up
So go ahead.
about his complaints. Oh, we can't hear
You're
you.
muted, Attorney Diller.
Thank you, Your Honor. On February 11th, Your Honor, Defendant Reed noticed 19 depots and scheduled them for specific dates. Plaintiff and all the parties blocked off all of those dates and prepared for those depots. So far, Defendant Reed has canceled 17 depositions and renoticed all of them. For all of the depots that were scheduled to occur between March 24th.
Oh boy, Mark Diller is telling the judge all the tea. Holy smokes. He's like, Your Honor, he obviously has a notebook, right? Your Honor, on February 11th, Reed had 19 depots scheduled. We held those dates. We calendared those dates. We prepared for those depositions. Defendant Reed canceled 17 of them and renoticed all of them. He's telling the judge everything.
Has canceled 17 depositions and renoticed all of them.
And if you notice, the judge is writing down notes.
For all of the depots that were scheduled to occur between March 24th and next week, Your Honor, the Defendant Reed has canceled 13 depositions. Many of those cancellations occurred on the eve of those depots, at least as far as we were notified. Even
Oh my gosh, did you hear that? So, from March 24th until just this week, they had canceled 13 depositions, and they canceled them the eve of the deposition. Uh-oh, Mr. Rosenberg, you got some explaining to do.
Even though the Defendant Reed had us block off all of these dates in February, I've learned that since Defendant Reed just sent off notices of deposition to the parties in this case, but did not bother to serve many of those deponents until the last minute.
Uh-oh.
This clickbait lawyer.
See? Okay. So earlier, the judge was like, what do you guys think about these Zoom hearings? Do you think that they should be allowed? And we as the public are, yes, please, because you want to know why? Because as Mr. Diller here is talking about how bad Karen Reed's attorney is and what they did or didn't do, his face is saying it all. He's like, you can't get this in a courtroom, right? If they're in a courtroom, they're facing the judge. And if it's a Zoom courtroom, right, you see the judge, you don't see everybody. And listen, the news stations aren't going to cover every one of these hearings, right? So this is hilarious. Okay, let's back it up. You hear Mr. Diller complain about Mr. Rosenberg. If you're just joining me, we're going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. I'm also live on YouTube if you want to join me over there to watch this.
Deposition to the parties in this case, but did not bother to serve many of those deponents until the last minute. This clickbait lawyering is a tactic so that she can create a false narrative that these deponents are the ones who are canceling the depositions.
Oh my gosh, you just missed it. Mark Diller just said, this is clickbait. All right, I'm going to back up because this is really good. I got to stop talking.
In February, I've learned that since Defendant Reed just sent off notices of deposition to the parties in this case, but did not bother to serve many of those deponents until the last minute. This clickbait lawyering is a tactic so that she can create a false narrative that these deponents are the ones who are canceling the depositions. But because of the late cancellations, Defendant Reed has now rebooked those 17 depositions, and without regard to other dates that we have already served depo notices for. Between now and August 1st, we have 35 depositions on the calendar in this case. Recently disclosed information from documents and depots may likely make necessary additional depots being noticed. Likely, I'm concerned, Your Honor, because
Okay, if you're just joining me live on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. We're going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. Mark Diller is talking about Karen Reed's team and how they only sent notices out to people for scheduling depositions, and that they did not tell Mark Diller's people that there was these depositions happening, and something along the lines of clickbait and clickbait lawyering. So he's saying that it sounds like Karen Reed sent out these notices. She didn't actually schedule them. Then they didn't tell John O'Keefe's family that these depositions actually weren't going to happen. So the night before, they're canceling them. And it looks like the people who had the depositions canceled them and not Karen Reed's team. And that's clickbait lawyering is what he said. If you're joining me on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube if you want to hop over there and go see the hearing with me.
depots may likely make necessary additional depots being noticed. Likely, I'm concerned, Your Honor, because I expect there will be third-party motion practice from some of these deponents. It appears that Defendant Reed is using our case to conduct discovery for the 3 other cases that are currently pending with her involvement.
Mark Diller just said that Karen Reed is using this case to get information on her own cases. And Mr. Rosenberg is just standing there going, he's got all the faces. This is great.
So I just wanted to give you context to the scheduling that has occurred up until today.
Your Honor, as you could expect, I'd like to respond to that context, please.
Shocking. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Rosenberg, he's like, Your Honor, like right away, as soon as Mark Diller finished, he's like, Your Honor, I would like to respond to that. And the judge says, shocking. This judge is so spicy. I just love it. So here's the thing. As some of you know, court cases and lawyering and stuff is sometimes so boring and so monotonous. And sometimes you get a judge who's just like business, 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 and like no personality. This judge, nah. He's like, all right, you guys want some entertainment? I'm all for it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's bring the entertainment. And we are. We're super entertained. This is fun. This is fun.
It's unclear if we're conducting a press conference here or a status conference in a...
Mr. Rosenberg just said, Your Honor, I don't know if we're conducting a press conference here or a status conference hearing. Oh, please. The both of you.
Civil proceeding. I don't know what clickbait lawyering is, but what I can tell you, Your Honor, is Attorney Diller has never raised any concern about any date of our depositions with us. If any party to this case has a concern with a date for a deposition that we've noticed, we are more than happy to discuss that. It is completely inappropriate for parties to come on to a proceeding like this and take the time to force us all to go back and forth about topics like this that should be addressed between counsel. So I would ask, Your Honor, that we not handle this in this type of proceeding. And instead, if there's a problem with scheduling, by all means, let us know and we will adjust it as we have for third parties. I'm not going to, the accusation that the lawyering is being done for a particular way, frankly, is completely out of bounds and inappropriate. And it's designed simply.
Okay, Mr. Rosenberg is mad, big mad. Mr. Rosenberg is big mad. And he's like, Your Honor, I don't know what clickbait lawyering is. And this isn't the forum. This isn't the time or the place to be doing this. And Mark Diller shouldn't be saying these things in this manner. Hearing should just be on the matters at hand. Oh boy. Who's grandstanding now?
To be conveyed to the public and not to Your Honor. And I request that we reconsider what types of discussions we're willing to have in hearings like this prior to any conference under Rule 9C or any other court rule.
Mr. Tiller's face is like, mm-hmm.
So hang on 1 second. I bet Attorney Holstag doesn't want to miss all this, so we'll wait a moment.
Oh my gosh, this judge is amazing. This judge is amazing. He's like, hold on just a moment. Attorney Holstag, I think she popped off. He's like, she's gonna want to miss this.
For her to get back on. Is she trying to get back on, Kelsey?
Yes, Your Honor, she should be popping up in a second.
Oh my gosh, this judge is
I'm here, Your Honor.
Okay,
I'm here, Your Honor.
so,
I didn't.
Attorney Diller, have you?
Miss anything? I heard it all.
Okay, all right. Attorney Diller, have you spoken with any of the parties about these issues?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, many of these cancellations, we weren't notified until the eve. I'll have you know
Okay,
that.
But hang on, Attorney Diller. Did you call up any of Ms. Reed's 10 lawyers and say, hey, what's going on here?
Mark Diller, did you call up any of Karen Reed's 10 lawyers and say, hey, what's going on here? You have 10 to choose from. Oh my gosh, this is so funny.
Lawyers and say, hey, what's going on here?
Look at his
We've
face.
talked to them plenty, but we haven't talked about their position of canceling all these
Listen for
depositions,
her.
Your Honor.
Okay, well, it's kind of like you're trying to sandbag them, which isn't a great way to do.
Oh my gosh, if you were just joining me, we're going over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday, and this judge is given so much entertainment. He's just like, well, you're just trying to sandbag them. I love it.
Haven't talked
Oh my
about
gosh, I love it.
their position of canceling all these depositions, Your Honor.
Okay, well, it's kind of like you're trying to sandbag them, which isn't a great way to do it. You know, let's take a step back here and keep in mind that we all have to be professional in how we deal with these cases. And that necessarily involves communication. And
Understood.
so let's try and keep that in mind as we go forward, all right? We'll
Thank
see
you.
everyone on June 3rd at 3
Thank
o'clock. Is that date a problem for anyone?
No.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Nope.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I hate to keep getting together every month, but it looks like we're gonna have to continue to do it. So we'll see everyone June 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So the next hearing is June the 3rd at 3 p.m. And let me tell you, we're here for it, right? All right. If you are just joining me, we just went over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. And man, I was just like, oh, this is going to be a nothing burger. They're just going to talk about XYZ and it's not going to, there's nothing coming from it. Oh my gosh. It gave everything. It gave everything. Okay. my biggest take on this is there's so many things going on, right? I wonder if each one of these Karen Reed's team as well as John O'Keefe's team, I think they want this to continue and have us cover it, right? I think they want us to continue to bring this up in the news, especially Karen Reed's team, right? She's got a lot of other cases going on, and it's important to keep this momentum in the news continuing. And so the two of them with their banter back and forth is very entertaining, right? Lawyering, I said, can be super boring. Oh, judge this, oh, judge that, lawyer talk, legalese talk, etc. But the two of them fighting is just the great, and the judge is the babysitter, right? Now you two go to your separate corners, and if you can't play nicely with each other, did you talk to his 10 lawyers? We need to be professional. So that was definitely worth it. So if you're just joining me live on TikTok, I'm live on YouTube. We just went over the Karen Reed hearing yesterday. If you hadn't had a chance to watch it, let me know. We will. After I'm done live, I'll post this on my YouTube channel, same channel, Legalese123, and that you can go and watch it. And if you've already watched it, let me know what you think in the comments. This is entertaining. Karen Reed stuff is super entertaining. It's so much fun. All right, so we just went over the Karen Reed hearing that happened yesterday. That was fabulous. I cannot stress enough how fabulous that was. I just can't. It makes me laugh, right? And John O'Keefe's death is a tragedy, and nobody should be laughing at that. But the antics that these lawyers are going through are just giving it to me. So if you're just joining me, also FYI, spoiler alert, Brendan Banfield's trial for sentencing hearing. I will remove this. All right. If you don't know who Brendan Banfield is, here he is. Brendan Banfield, I just went onto Google and got some pictures. Brendan Banfield was the former FBI federal agent who, he was a federal agent in the IRS who lured Joe Ryan to come and potentially unalive his wife because he was having an affair with his au pair, Juliana Magales. If you don't know what it is, you can go to my YouTube channel and look up Brendan Banfield. There's a huge playlist. And you could see that trial, which was fabulous. And he took the stand and basically lied. Long story short, today he was supposed to have a sentencing hearing, and it was going to be good because the judge in that case, she is retiring, and she is also a very spicy lawyer as well. She, because she's retiring, I think that she also feels free to state her mind. And we were looking forward to that, but unfortunately, they postponed it to June the 5th. So a lot's going to be happening during the summertime, as the Judge G in Karen Reed's case says, buckle up. All right, so we talked about Brendan Banfield. We talked about Karen Reed. Next, we're going to talk about TikTok Psychic. Let me know if you know about the TikTok Psychic case because I've been covering it. So let's go back. Everybody knows about Brian Kohberger, right? Brian Kohberger pled guilty to unaliving the 4 University of Idaho students. In that time frame when everybody was trying to figure out, because the students, this unaliving of the students happened in early November, I believe like November 13th. Brian Kohberger was not found, or they did not arrest him until December, right? So it's about 6 to 8 weeks before they captured him, etc. The police in Moscow, Idaho, did not want to release information to alert their suspect, and so they kept a lot of things under wraps. So there was a lot of rampant speculation as to who did it. And there was a psychic who lives in Texas. She lives in Houston, Texas. And she said, hey, I know who did it. She got out her tarot cards, and her tarot cards told her that it was a history professor at the university who was having an inappropriate relationship with one of the female victims. So it was a female-female relationship, and that she hired the ex-boyfriend of this female to come on in and do the unalivings. And this TikToker story is just, it's like not plausible, right? But she continued to go on and on and on and accuse the professor of doing these heinous deeds, right? So professor said, hey, lady, can you just stop? So she sent several cease and desist orders to TikToker. TikToker was like, nope. Not only that, I'm going to triple down on this. Nope, you did it, etc. So the University of Idaho professor had no other choice, but she sued her for defamation. The suit was filed early on, so the unalivings happened in what, 2020? It's been so long. I think it was 2022. 2022 or 2020, 2022, 2021, 2022, I think it happened. Anyways, long story short, if I have my dates wrong, I apologize. The University of Idaho professor sued TikToker for defamation. It took so long for this case to go through. Civil cases take a long time, but this one took extremely long because the TikToker represented herself. And I think that the judge in this case wanted to take his time and make sure that TikToker had all of the avenues available to her, because he wanted to make sure that her rights were met as well as the rights of the professor. So finally, earlier this year, let me back up. The judge did a summary judgment against TikToker and said, yes, professor has been defamed. And so she won the case. Putting in layman's terms, she won the case. And so the judge said, okay, how would you like to proceed? Are you done with this? Are we done? How would you like to continue on? And so she's like, Your Honor, we're going to go for damages. So then that was the second phase of this civil suit. So earlier this year, just in March, the not penalty phase, but the punitive damages phase took place in Boise, Idaho, and the professor won that. She won a $10 million case in that. We covered it. If you joining me, we're talking about TikTok psychic case that happened in Idaho. I'm also live on YouTube. So if you want to go to my YouTube page, Legalese123, and you go through the playlist, it says TikTok psychic. You can see all of the things that I covered with the TikTok psychic case. So University of Idaho professor won the defamation suit. She got a $10 million award to her. And TikToker is like, no way. She is double, tripling, quadrupling. I cannot even go even higher. She's like, no way, Jose. So she has filed a motion. She's filed many motions. We've gone over most of the motions, but she filed a motion for appeal. She's also appealing the attorney's fees because professor has said, hey, I want to, sorry, I'm trying to get this up here. I want to appeal attorney's fees because the professor in her statement said, okay, not only did we win the $10 million, but we're also going for attorney's fees, which is applicable. And we kind of went over them, and the fees that TikTokers, the fees that professors' lawyers had were very reasonable. They're like very little in a civil case. And you're like, how can that be? Well, they were very, very generous. And guess what? TikTok Psychic is like, nope, you don't get those either. You're not getting those either. I oppose those too. So TikTok Psychic, she's the gift that keeps on giving. Like, she just won't stop. She just won't stop. Okay. There's two of them. I'm trying to see which one that I want to do first. 1 second. I'm going to pull up this docket and just see really quickly which one. I just quickly pulled them up and I'm out of order. So hold on just a minute. I want to make sure I have the right one. Okay, so 159, then 160. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so if you're just joining me, I'm live on the Tubes of the U, same channel. We're going to be reading the TikTok Psychics. Here we go. All right. So TikTok Psychic said, no, you can't have attorney's fees. And so what happens? The attorney has to respond. Reply in support of plaintiff's motion for attorney's fees. So poor professor, she's like, okay, yay, I won the $10 million suit. Yay, everything's great. My life is going to be great. TikToker's like, no way, Jose. It's not going to happen. All right, so let's read what lovely TikToker has to say. Oh, sorry, this is the plaintiff. All right, so plaintiff Rebecca Schofield, she's the University of Idaho professor, seeks her reasonable attorney fees. They were very reasonable because the defendant TikToker defended the case her frivolously, unreasonably, and without foundation. Miss TikToker could have avoided all liability and the now $10 million verdict against her simply by stopping to make false statements that the professor orchestrated the unalivings of the university students. If you're just joining me on TikTok, we're live on YouTube reading the TikTok Psychic University of Idaho professors continued saga. TikTok Psychic doesn't want to pay for the professor's attorney's fees. And her attorney said, hey, listen, judge, if she'd have just stopped yakking about this, she would have avoided all of this, but she didn't. And yet here we are. So, and did so because she had been having the affair with one of the unalived students, but instead, TikToker took the professor's cease and desist letters, feigned putting them in her toilet paper holder, and in a TikTok video said that the professor and her lawyers could kiss her butt. I kid you not. I kid you not. TikToker, holy smokes. Holy smokes. All right. Having lost as to a liability on summary judgment because she could produce no facts supporting her false statements, having a $10 million in damage awarded to the professor following a jury trial because she could produce no facts rebutting professor's evidence of damages and insisted that she was able to make her false statements without any facts to support them. TikToker here simply continues to harass and malign the professor. You let me know in the comments. You think that the professor is continually being harassed? The answer is yes. In her effort to avoid an award of attorney's fees, by the way, TikToker is also appealing the $10 million award, saying that there's another false narrative. All right. In her effort to avoid award of attorney's fees, Miss TikToker alleges fraud, presentation of false evidence, and the absence of an unfair trial. Just as no facts supported TikToker's false statements about the professor's involvement in the unalivings, no facts support her allegations of fraud or misconduct by professor. The witnesses called on her behalf or her counsel. An award for attorney's fees in the amount of $163,719.10 is appropriate. So you let me know in the comments, do you think that her attorney's fees of $163,000, 719 cents is appropriate? And when I say that, when we look at this docket, the docket started on December 21st, 2022. That is when Professor Schofield initially filed the defamation suit, and it's still continuing. There are approximately 160 docketed items, plus there was like all of the prior trial stuff was over Zoom, and then there was a 4-day trial in Boise. So we're talking 2022, 2026, almost a total of 4 years. 4 years. And all her attorney is charging them is $163,000. That's like nothing. That's nothing. Again, think about Karen Reed and all those. There's 22 lawyers in the Karen Reed saga, just in the defamation suit with John O'Keefe, not defamation, within the wrongful death suit that John O'Keefe's family is placing on Karen Reed. There are 22 lawyers. And just think about all their lawyer fees. This is so cheap. But I digress. In diversity jurisdiction cases, substantive state law on attorney fees apply. We already went over this. So attorney's fees are appropriate under the standard when the losing party's position is so plainly fallacious as to be deemed frivolous, unreasonable, and without foundation. TikToker does not directly dispute the standard by which this court is to assess whether an award of attorney's fees to professor is appropriate or reasonable. Instead, she attempts to turn it on its head. She cites a different Idaho Supreme Court case for the proposition that an award of attorney's fees was not warranted because professor and her counsel pursued the case vexatiously, oppressively, or in bad faith. So if you're just joining me, we are talking about the TikTok psychic case. TikTok psychic went on TikTok, said that a university professor unalived the 4 Idaho University students. We all know that Brian Koberger pled guilty in that case. Professor said, TikToker, stop talking about me. TikToker said no. And professor won a $10 million suit against her, and the TikToker refuses to let it go. She's appealing that case. She's also appealing for the attorney's fees that professor has imposed upon her. Okay, she argues that the professor committed fraud throughout the litigation and that her counsel made discriminatory statements. But Hoffer stands for no such proposition. Rather, the court in Hoffer awarded attorney's fees to the prevailing party on appeal. Miss TikToker's entire argument ignores that professor, not TikToker, is the prevailing party. In addition, the court in Hoffer grappled with the appropriate standard for an award of attorney's fees under the then existing version of Idaho Code. So remember, TikToker is representing herself. You let me know in the comments, do you think TikToker is using ChatGPT to help her in her filings? The answer is probably yes. All right, so moreover, neither the course of proceedings in this case nor the evidence at trial supports TikToker's assertion that professor committed fraud and that her counsel made discriminatory statements. Ms. Gullard's arguments are contrary to the evidence and to the jury's verdict. That Ms. Gullard's disagreed with professor's evidence does not make it fraudulent. So if TikToker does not like the evidence that came into trial, she was the person who tried the case. She had the ability to state that she didn't want things to come in. All right, so she had full access to Professor Schofield's exhibits containing her medical records and could have used them to cross-examine any witness. With the exception of Rebecca Bone, she chose not to. TikToker's allegations that professor's counsel made discriminatory statements in closing equally lack support. Indeed, she cites no specific statement that she contends was discriminatory At trial, Miss TikToker admitted that she had no facts to support her statements and that the professor orchestrated the unalivings or did so because she was having a relationship with one of the unalived female victims. All right. Finally, Miss TikToker insists on arguing fraud in her opposition to professor's motion for attorney fees only underscores that she defended the claims against her frivolously, unreasonably, and without foundation. An award of attorney's fees is appropriate. So you let me know in the comments, do you think that professor of University of Idaho should be getting her attorney's fees from TikToker? If you're joining me on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube reading the motion that Professor of University of Idaho is responding to TikToker's claims that she shouldn't get any money. So you let me know in the comments what you think. All right, Miss TikToker argues that Professor's request for attorney's fees is excessive because Professor was not actually damaged and because Professor did not need to hire counsel to pursue her claims. And that TikToker was a pro se defendant. That means she represented herself. That is not the standard by which the court is to assess the reasonableness of attorney's fees award. Rather, as set forth in Professor's memorandum in support of a motion for attorney's fees, they have established she should get them. Other than passing a reference to the related skills of professors, trial counsel, and paralegal, Miss TikToker makes no effort to analyze, address, or rebut Professor's arguments regarding the application. It remains that as set out in Professor's memorandum for attorney's fees, the Professor requests $163,719.10. For these reasons set forth above, the Professor's memorandum states this court should award the money. Hand it over. XOXO, Wendy Olson. That was just one filing. Let's go into the next one. And again, I mean, this just continues and continues and continues. When is TikToker going to stop? Right? When is she going to stop? The answer is, I don't know. All right, if you're just joining me and reading along with me, we are going over the TikTok psychic case where TikTok psychic accused a professor of the University of Idaho for unaliving some students. We all know that Brian Koberger pled guilty to that. TikToker went on TikTok and said, hey, I know who did it. And my tarot card said it was this professor. And she made up this elaborate story. Professor sued her for defamation. She won $10 million. But TikToker is not letting it go. No. She's appealing that decision. She's appealing attorney's fees. And guess what? The poor professor's attorney still has to respond to all of these. So it continues. All right. So this is a memorandum in opposition to the defendant's rule motion filed for relief. More than 3 years after the plaintiff, Rebecca Schofield, who is the professor, filed 2 defamation claims against defendant TikToker. Don't want to say her name. We all know who she is. 20 months after this court entered a summary judgment on both of those claims as to liability, then a jury on the 27th of February earlier this year awarded the professor $10 million in damages. Throughout the litigation, TikToker repeatedly sought to delay its outcome with multiple repetitive motions to dismiss, motions for the court to reconsider the rulings, motions to have the case reassigned to a different judge. She also filed a motion to have the case moved to Texas because that's where she's at. I kid you not. She did anything and everything to postpone this. Indeed, in her final motion to dismiss and a motion to continue came just merely 2 weeks before the trial. After a jury resoundingly rejected TikToker's arguments and attempts to suggest that the professor did not suffer any damages, this court entered a final judgment on the jury's verdict. 31 days after this court's entered judgment, TikToker again seeks a different outcome. On April 6th, she filed a motion for relief from judgment, arguing that the professor obtained her verdict through fraud, false testimony, and misconduct during the counsel's closing argument. That same day, she filed a notice of appeal. TikToker's motion is unsupported by the facts and law. It is also ultimately because it is not filed within 28 days as required by the Federal Rule of Appellate Procedure. This court lacks jurisdiction to consider it. Federal Rule of Appellate Procedure requires a party to file Rule 60 motion for relief of judgment within 28 days. Okay. Argument. TikToker filed her rule motion on April 6th, more than 28 days after this court's March 5th entry of judgment. Thus, TikToker's notice of appeal, also filed April 6th, divests the court of jurisdiction. Although I think she went to go file for the appeal and she filed it here where she was supposed to file it in appeals, and I think they gave her some latitude. But that's okay. All right, so she's just arguing that she didn't file it correctly and that okay, so she argues that the professor committed fraud by falsely claiming that damages exceeded $75,000. We went over all of this. If you want to go back, you can go to my YouTube channel, Legalese 123, where I have covered this case. It's in a playlist. I think it's called TikTok Psychic. And we've gone over this and over this. Okay, for these reasons set forth above, this court should deny Ms. TikToker's motion to set aside the judgment. It is untimely because of her notice of appeal. This court lacks jurisdiction, but it also lacks merit. It simply reflects her disagreement with the jury's verdict, not any fraud or misconduct by Professor. All right, so you let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think that TikToker should just stop, right? She just continues and continues and continues. And now with her appeal, she has to pay for things. She's not, even though she's pro se, so in order for appeal, you have to order the transcripts. She's ordered the transcripts. They were over $3,000, almost $4,000. She's ordered the transcripts. She's paid for them. And she also has to pay for filing fees, etc. So I don't know what she's hoping to gain by all of this. I mean, obviously, she's hoping she doesn't have to pay $10 million plus $167,000 in attorney's fees. But how much is she paying on the other end to fight this battle? So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that TikTok Psychic should just give up the ghost, right? Just give it up, put this all to bed. And also, I think that the professor just this has been going on since 2022. It's got to end at some point in time, right? It's got to end. All right, so if you are just joining me live on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube where I am doing all of the Law to Be things. So if you want to join me over there, you can see what we're talking about. We first initially talked about the Karen Reed case. There was a hearing yesterday, and that was hilarious. I already went over that. I just finished up with the TikTok Psychic, and now we're on to Myles King. Who is Myles King, you say? Who is Myles King, and why is it important? Well, Myles King was, let me see if I can get this up. Da-da-da-da. There we go. All right. So Myles King was indicted for first-degree unaliving of Marquis Simmons. That happened in July 10th of 2021. But Missy, we're in July, we're almost in July of 2026. Why and what is taking so long? Well, in Massachusetts, as you know, the court system there is terrible. It's terrible. And Michael Proctor. We'll go into that in just a second. So, Myles King was arrested for the unaliving of Marquis Simmons. And it's just, it's like a regular case. It's a regular criminal case, right? But no. Nothing in Massachusetts can just be a regular case. he hired Rosemary Scapiccio, who is a great attorney. If you don't know who Rosemary Scapiccio is, hold on. She is an aggressive Boston criminal defense attorney. And throughout her time of trying to advocately defend Myles King, she found out there was a whole bunch of discrepancy. And in that, there were discovery violations. They surround Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor. If you don't know who Michael Proctor is a former Massachusetts State Police officer who was fired for his misconduct and bias in the Karen Read case. Michael Proctor also has inappropriate messages on his phone in reference to Karen Read and other litigants with which he had investigated. But specifically in the Myles King case, Rosemary Scapiccio was trying to get discovery in that they were looking for the affidavits of the warrants that were being issued in the Myles King case. Rosemary Scapiccio kept saying, where are they? Where are they? Adam Lawley, who was also he is an assistant district attorney. He was the district attorney who prosecuted Karen Read in her first trial. He was second chair in the second trial. We didn't really hear much from him. Rosemary Scapiccio was like, Adam Lawley, where are these documents? Where are these documents? Where are these documents? And in doing so, they kept saying, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. And instead of Lawley going to go get them from Michael Proctor, who had them, they just kept pushing it, kicking the can down the road. And that's what they do in reference to discovery in Massachusetts. They keep kicking things down the road. Rosemary Scapiccio was saying, Your Honor, my client is sitting in jail. This is an egregious violation of due process for him. He needs to be taken out of jail and be at least set out on bail because you're taking all this time. And I forget which judge it was. We could go look at the docket. But yes, Myles King got bail. So Myles King is out in the world, free to do whatever he was doing. Obviously, he has certain criteria that he needs to meet to be out on bail, and he was free. Rosemary Scapiccio also, there is a big cluster of cases that are involved in the Michael Proctor text saga that people are trying to get Michael Proctor's texts that are also in other cases that Rosemary Scapiccio is involved with, and a couple of other lawyers. Remember, there's approximately 17 cases in which Michael Proctor's texts, messages, and his pictures and everything that are under a protective order right now are being disseminated throughout these cases. And we were holding our eggs in this basket for Myles King because we thought this case was going to be moving forward, and this was going to be our first look into the Michael Proctor text. Well, hold your beer, because guess what? Guess what? Myles King was arrested yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Myles King was arrested. And you say, why was Myles King arrested? Well, he violated the terms of his what's the word I'm looking for? He violated his terms of his probation for his bail. Well, not he violated his bail. They revoked his bail. He violated the terms of him being out on bail. I forget the wording. And so you say, well, why? So it was out on X and Twitter or whatever that said that he was being, let me see if I can tell you. So there was a note on his docketed item that said, well, now the Commonwealth has came out to say that they were revoking the defendant's release, an order of detention, a violation of conditions of release. But it was stated, oh, they're going to be in court later on today. Oh boy. Oh boy. This day just keeps getting better, doesn't it? Just the minute when I think we're getting through this. No, hold my beer. Hold my beer. All right. I was trying to get it really quickly, but I don't think I am. All right. Long story short, Myles King got arrested. Missy, why did he get arrested? Well, oh, I kid you not. Here we go. Let me bring this up. If you're joining me on TikTok, I'm also live on YouTube. I'm going to be going over why what happened to Myles King and why he got arrested. All right, here we go. Detention affidavit of Special Agent John Christensen. I, John Christensen, duly being sworn and deposed as the state as follows. I'm a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. And if you know, Brian Higgins was an agent there. Do you know Brian Higgins? I'm currently assigned to work with other federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies as a task force effort focusing on federal firearms, explosives, and controlled substances. Based on my training and experience as an ATF special agent, I'm familiar with firearms, narcotics. I've conducted and been involved in many things. All right. So I'm submitting this affidavit in support of the government's motion that the following defendants be detained pending trial. I'm going to mispronounce this. Ron Williams, aka Pancho, Champion Brown, aka Champ, William Brown, aka EBK, Hosnani Akram, aka Frenchie, Myles King, aka Mizzy Cash, Junior Gene Lewis, known as Jiggy, and Malachi Martins. I guess Malachi doesn't get he doesn't get a nickname. Okay, 6 of the targets have been charged with the United States versus Wrong, Pancho et al. And the 7th, Malachi Martins, has been charged in federal criminal complaint in connection with approximately a 7-month federal, state, and local investigation resulting in controlled buys of guns, fentanyl, crack, and from targets. Oh boy. So you're telling me, and I'm trying to read between the lines, and you let me know what you think. Are you reading between the lines as well? That Myles King had this incident happened with Marquis Simmons. Then he got Rosemary Scapici, who's in jail, got out of jail. He was supposed to be good, but he was continuing to do bad things. All right. Buckle up because the story's getting good. And if you want to read with me, I'm also live on YouTube. You can read this statement with me. In 2015, the United States Attorney's Office charged 48 leaders and members of associates of the Columbia Point Dogs, also known as The Point, after a 2-year investigation by law enforcement. The Point at the time was Boston's largest and most influential citywide gang. Oh my God, this is good. The gang was originally based out of Columbia Point Housing Development, now Harbor Point, and over the years becoming a dominant presence throughout the city in the gang, drug distribution, and firearm trafficking business. CPD, which is the Columbia House Development, right? Sorry, Columbia Point Dogs. This is CPD. Expanded its trafficking business through southern Massachusetts, establishing strongholds in Brockton, Fall River, southern New Hampshire, southern Maine. The gang was largely run by 4 families. Oh my gosh, it's like a crime syndicate family. Oh my gosh. If you're just joining me, we're talking about Myles King. I'm also live on YouTube. I'm reading Myles King was just recently arrested by the feds, ATF. And we're going over why. All right. So there's a big gang run by 4 families, all of which had descendants among the targets in the CPD investigation. The Williams family, the Woods family, the Bear family, and the Funches family. Wow. The takedown of CPD causes a significant reduction of crime, particularly unalivings, pew-pews, drugs, and pew-pew trafficking. I have to be careful. TikTok doesn't like some of these words. In the Boston area is typically dominated by CPD. With its diminished numbers and leadership, name CPD no longer carried the weight in gang circles that it once did. The remaining members of CPD became isolated and lacked the protection they once had. Based on intelligence sources and our investigations, agents determined that some of the prominent remaining members of CPD affiliated themselves with another Boston gang, Johnson Road. Together, the members of these gangs formed an alliance that gave them protection, status, and a network of selling illicit things and pew-pews. The targets of this investigation are members or associates of the CPD and Johnson Road operating in Boston, Brockton, Randolph, and parts of southeastern Massachusetts. Oh boy. Based on intelligence sources, our investigation agents determined that leaders, members, and associates of CPD and Johnson Road work together to sell naughty things and pew-pews to gang members and others throughout Boston, Brockton, Randolph, and other parts of Massachusetts. Oh, I'm going to mispronounce this name. We'll say Mr. Williams is the epicenter of this activity, connecting various targets from different gangs. For example, during the investigation, Williams, a member of Johnson Road, sold illicit drugs with Myles King, who is also a member of Johnson Road, and his drug trafficking associate, Mr. Akram. Williams also sold pew-pews with Champ and with Mr. Brown, both of whom are members of CPD. In general, Williams, King, and Akram and others are actively supplying Massachusetts communities with large quantities of F and the white stuff, while pills and white stuff, while the same time Williams, Brown, and Mr. Brown are trafficking various types of pew-pews, including an AK pew-pew and some other pew-pews. Malachi was identified as an associate of Mr. Williams. In approximately 7 months, agents made control buys of 18 pew-pews and over 300 grams of F, approximately 62 grams of F pressed pills, and approximately 175 grams of the white stuff. Following, the pew-pews were seized during controlled buys in this investigation, and they list them with the serial numbers. Wow. Sometimes we like these probable cause affidavits because they're telling us everything, right? And if you know, you know. Carrie Roberts is telling them everything. All right, so they bought a whole bunch of weapons. All right. The following is a list of the targets together with a brief synopsis of their role in the investigation and information regarding their gang associations and their involvement in the drug and pew-pew trafficking operations. Information set forth below comes from these sources I consider to be reliable, including, among other things, that the targets did and said over the course of the investigation. Some of the buys in this case were made by an undercover ATF special agent. I wonder if that was Mr. Higgins. I don't think so, but we like to think that he's doing something, right? Some of the buys were made by cooperating witnesses. And by the way, doesn't everybody know Mr. Higgins now? And if everybody knows Mr. Higgins, he can't be an undercover guy anymore because they know who he is. Just asking for a friend. All right, so they had a UC go and buy all of these things. All right, Mr. Williams is a member of the Boston-based gang Johnson Road. Williams has a 2021 Massachusetts federal conviction for being a felon with possession of pew-pews. He was sentenced to 48 months, was released in October of 2024. He is currently on federal supervised release. All right. So he and Myles King are doing naughty things while they're out on bail or out on supervised release. Oh boy. Williams was sentenced to 2 years in jail for convictions in BMCD door tester for carrying a loaded pew-pew without a license and assault with a dangerous weapon. While on supervised release, Williams was running a pew-pew trafficking operation separately and a drug distribution business where Williams is the epicenter for almost every drug and pew-pew buy made through controlled purchases of Undercover One and CW1. I don't know who that is. In locations in Boston and the surrounding area, including Somerville, Brockton, Randolph, Easton, Weymouth, and Cape Cod. Hey, isn't Brian Higgins, doesn't he live? Oh, he lives in Sandwich. Isn't that by Cape Cod? Anyways, throughout this investigation, Williams and his associates conducted 10 drug buys, selling over 300 grams of powdered F, pills, the white stuff. He also conducted 7 pew-pew buys, etc., etc., etc. There's pictures of some pew-pews. We'll scroll through that. Okay, Champ is a member of the Columbia Point Dog CPD. His criminal history includes a March 2025 Suffolk Superior Court conviction of armed robbery and is currently on probation for his offense until March 2027. Oh, sorry, he's on probation until March 2027. So he's on probation doing naughty things as well. He was convicted of larceny in New Hampshire in 2025 and received a 1-year suspended sentence and 2 years probation. Oh boy. During that investigation, they determined that Mr. Brown supplies pew-pews to Mr. Williams for street-level sales. In the past 4 months, Mr. Brown provided at least 5 pew-pews that Mr. Williams sold to undercover agents, and they listed what they were. Oh, there's more pictures of them. The pew-pew buys occurred in Dorchester. Below is a picture. We'll scroll through that. On February 3rd, Mr. Williams sold some other pew-pews to the undercover officers. And there's a quote, yeah, 300 of that is bro shit. I know I didn't do it justice, which I understand to mean that C. Brown received a portion of the buy proceeds. I know I didn't do it justice. I'm sorry. I don't speak their language. All right, on May 7th, 2026, agents executed a federal search warrant to Brown's apartment. Brown was present in the apartment. Inside his apartment, agents seized approximately 21 pew-pew conversion devices and 5 pew-pews. 2 of the pew-pews were AR-style pistols, and the MCDs, which is the synonym for the conversions, are commonly referred to as switches. 2 of the pew-pews had obliterated serial numbers, and one of those pew-pews had a switch attached to it. A switch, or MCD, is designed to convert a semi-automatic into a fully automatic big pew-pew, capable of pew-pewing a lot of rounds in a magazine with a single pull of the trigger. The device typically attaches to the rear of the pistol slide, defeating the mechanism that limits firing to 1 per round per trigger pull. In 2026, the Hartford, Connecticut Police Department reported recent pew-pews involving switches where over 100 shots were fired in seconds. The Hartford police noted a correlation between the large number of switches seized and an increase in the number of the pew-pew victims. Pistols equipped with switches are difficult to control because they are not manufactured to support fully pew-pew gunfire. And the use of switches therefore increases the danger to the public of being, you know what. All right, William Brown, aka EBK, is a member of the CPD. EBK was had an active bench warrant for a 2025 case out of Troy District Court in Troy, New York, which was issued after he failed to appear for sentencing after pleading guilty to. You're joking me, right? 2025, he failed to appear in New York. He's living in Massachusetts. That's almost 10 years ago, right? Okay. He failed. He was issued, but after he failed to appear for sentencing after pleading guilty to resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and harassment, and obstructing a government official. Okay, you can't make this stuff up. All right, these are the players in the player club. During the investigation, agents learned that Mr. Brown is the brother of the other Brown and is a pew-pew and drug supplier. The two Browns sold half a kilo of supposed F. On other occasions, Mr. Brown sold to one of the undercovers 5 pew-pews, 5 of the conversion things at a location in Dorchester. During the half kilo buy on April 9th, both the Browns discussed the fact that they could easily get more. EBK told the undercover officer, bro, we could always have that shit. I could have 10 things ready for you. I could have 3 things ready for you. Give me a couple of days and I'll tell you about how much polls you can looking to grab. I wonder what polls stands for. Okay. UC asked how many he could acquire. Mr. Brown responded, I can touch anything. Okay, I know I'm not doing this justice. Based on my training and experience, I know that Mr. Williams and Mr. Brown were referring to their ability to obtain as many pew-pews in different varieties that the undercover officer was asking for. Later than a week on April 15th, Mr. Brown sold 3 pew-pews to the UC. Okay, talks about what kind they are. On April 21st, the UC bought an additional pew-pews. Oh, and they show them talking about what they are. All right, Mr. Frenchie. He is a drug trafficking associate of Myles King and are both members of a group called Self-Made. Oh, now we got a new one. I can't keep up with all of their Point and then the Johnson Road. Now they're Self-Made. Okay. Mr. Frenchie supplies drugs to Williams and King, and he also sells drugs with King. Frenchie is also known for having a kilograms quantities of drugs for sale. Frenchie and King conduct some of their drug trafficking businesses on or around Cape Cod. During the investigation, agents learned that Frenchie supplies Williams with the white stuff and the F. On October 28th, 2025, Frenchie drove Williams in a rental car to a buy near Frenchie's residence in East Massachusetts, where Williams sold approximately 103 grams of F to UC, undercover agent. Agents learned that Frenchie would front the narcotics to Williams so that Williams could sell the bulk of the drugs and keep a smaller quantity for free. Frenchie also supplied King with the white powder before King sold 59 grams of the white powder to an undercover officer on March 27th, 2026. I bet you Rosemary Scapiccio is super happy to learn this, right? Right. And is she also going to is she also going to represent him in this federal case? Oh my, oh my. I wish it could be a fly on the wall when Rosemary Scapiccio found this out. All right. On March 27th, King told the undercover officer that he needed to get the white powder stuff from Frenchie. Agents also learned that King and Frenchie used the same driver to deliver the narcotics to the customers. On March 7th, 2026, agents executed a federal search warrant of Frenchie's residence, seized over a kilogram of F. All right, Myles King, aka Nizzy Cash, here we go, is a member of the Johnson Road Gang and a member of the Self-Made. King is on pretrial release for a 2020 unaliving case out of Norfolk Superior Court. In 2021, King was charged with the unaliving murder of the victim 1. Reports allege that King shot victim 1 in front of victim 1's home shortly after victim 1 arrived on a moped. In 2019, police arrested King while he was sitting in a stolen car with a loaded pew-pew outside of the victim's home, resulting in King being charged with possession of a larger capacity weapon, carrying a pew-pew with ammunition without a license, and receiving stolen property. Both cases are currently pending in Norfolk Superior Court while King remains out on pre-trial release. When King was released from jail, members of the Self-Made picked up King from jail in a Sprinter van and provided King with $20,000 cash. King maintains an Instagram account, MizzyCash617, and a YouTube channel, Mizzy Cash, where he has posted photos and videos depicting this event, as well as other posts flashing cash and numerous pew-pews. Oh, we have pictures. King and Williams were cellmates when they were both incarcerated at the Plymouth County Correctional Facility. And you don't say anything good happens while the people are in jail, right? King and Frenchie previously lived in the same apartment complex in Eastern Mass. King and Frenchie have both conspired with Williams in selling F and the white stuff to the UC on numerous occasions. Throughout the investigation, King sold over 175 grams of the white powder. After arranging the drug buyouts with Frenchie and CW, they met with King to buy the drugs. Or King would send a runner, known as Jiggy, to complete the drug buy. King told the undercover officer that Jiggy worked for him and Frenchie. During a buy on March 11th, 2026, when Rosemary Scapiccio is in court fighting for you. Oh, she's going to be big mad. I know she is. King sold the undercover officers 57 grams of the white powder stuff, 3 grams of the F. King told the undercover officer, I got what you need. Help me help you type shit. I want to make money with you, not off you. Then he stated, you think you can blend that shit? Referring to the 3 grams of F. Oh, Rosemary Scapiccio is not going to be happy with you. All right, Junior, Jiggy. Jiggy works for the runner for King and Frenchie. When the undercover was buying with King on March 26, King stated he was sending over his driver to meet Frenchie to obtain the white powder stuff to sell to the undercover officer. King explained to the undercover officer that his driver would meet him with a complete drug buy. The next day, Jiggy met with the officer in Weymouth to complete the drug buy. During the drug transaction, Jiggy told him his name was Jiggy and told the undercover officer to hit Mizzy, which is King. Shortly after the buy, agents surveilled both Jiggy and King, Jiggy and Mizzy, and observed them traveling to a 7-Eleven parking lot near Mizzy's residence in Weymouth, Massachusetts. All right, Malachi Martins, who is just like a total separate person, is an associate of Williams Martins and is a convicted felon with federal firearms convictions out of Maine in 2022 that resulted in a 24-month prison sentence with 36 months supervised release. Oh my goodness. So all of these people are out on some supervised release. Oh dear. Martins also has a 2023 conviction for possession with intent to distribute a Class A controlled substance, F, out of Plymouth Superior Court. Boy, let's just meet in Plymouth, right? That's where all the good people go. Was sentenced to 3 years and 1 day state prison. Oh boy. In 2023, Martins was convicted of intimidation of a Taunton District Court and received a sentence. Was convicted of intimidation in Taunton District. Who was intimidating? And received a sentence of 60 days. On May 7th, agents executed a search warrant for Martin's residence and seized unserialized pew-pews, known as ghost pew-pews, loaded with 6 rounds of 9mm things, as well as an additional 2 magazine and loose round of ammunition. He was charged in federal court in Boston after being a felony possessed of ammunition. In conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, each of these targets should be detained pending trial. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, they show there's picture. Oh, there's Exhibit A of all of the pictures. Oh dear. Oh my goodness. So let me know what you think in the comments about Myles King. Again, I think I think Rosemary Scapiccio is probably losing her ever-loving mind about what is going on. And holy smokes, I would be too if I was representing him. I would be like, Myles King, what WTF, right? What the heck are you doing? You know, she's fighting so hard for Myles King, right? She's in court all the time. She's talking about all these cases. She's fighting so hard to get the Proctor text. And people are like, oh my gosh, if he gets the Proctor text, will he get off because Proctors did all these things behind the scenes, blah, 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 blah. They're like, no, hold my beer. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments about Myles King, his recent incarceration. All right, so we talked about Karen Reed. They had a hearing yesterday. It was very entertaining. We talked about the TikTok psychic and how she continues to double down, triple down, quadruple down. We talked about Myles King and how he got rearrested by the feds. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Kristen Smart. Who is Kristen Smart? And we have this article because there's like a little bit of speculation and things. So we're going to talk a little bit about her. So, all right. So it's been 30 years since Kristen Smart's family saw her smile light up a room. The college freshman vanished from a California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo campus on Memorial Day weekend in 1996, sparking a decades-long investigation that led to the trial and conviction in 2022 of Paul Flores of her unaliving. But even after years of searching, authorities have never recovered her body, and she was declared dead in 2002. Smart's family said that they feel Flores continues to stand in the way of their daughter being returned to them. We continue to pray for the day that they can finally lay her to rest in the presence of those who love her, the family said in an open letter on their website. A new search warrant served on Wednesday at the Arroyo Grande, California home of Flores' mother. In the latest sign, investigators remain committed to finding answers, even after securing a conviction for Smart's murder. San Luis Obispo's County Sheriff's Ian Parkinson said his office has been continually working the case. I said when Paul Flores got convicted that the case wasn't over, and it's never going to be over until we return Kristen to her family, Parkinson said in an interview on the Up Plus Adam podcast recorded Wednesday. Parkinson is expected to hold a press conference Friday morning about the latest search, according to Sheriff's Office. Here is what we know so far. And I'll look and see if there's a latest update, but I just pulled this one. Okay, this is on CNN. Investigators swarmed the Flores' mother's home on Wednesday and Thursday, scouring the packed garage and examining the deck. The San Luis Obispo County District Attorney's Office confirmed in a statement the home belonged to Susan Flores. Can you just imagine, I wonder if she still owns the home. But could you imagine, you have a house and you bought a house and all of a sudden, all these agents and everything are swarming your house and you're like, we need to look under your deck. And you're like, what? What? All right. So CNN reached out to the attorneys who previously represented the families of Susan Flores, but did not immediately hear back. She has not been accused of any wrongdoing by prosecutors in the case. Tim Nelligan, an expert in soil vapor testing, told the Associated Press on Thursday that he was on the premises gathering samples in Susan Flores' yard as well as a neighbor's yard. Because yes, so they can take soil samples and it can tell you if something had decomposed there. Nelligan declined to discuss the investigation, but said his team has, in general, come up with a methodology to assess soil vapor and its relation to human cadaver decomposition. Should just continue to read on and stop talking. The search is going to be extremely thorough and could take 2 or 3 days, Parkinson told podcast host Adam Montiel. We've proven already that Paul did it. We believe that Kristen at one time was on Paul Flores' father's property. We know she's been moved, so where she moved to, we're hunting that down. And of course, probably what? Paul Flores isn't talking. Flores and his family have been at the center of the search for Smart since the earliest days of the investigation due to her disappearance. Officials said Flores, who was 19-year-old freshman at the time, was the latest person to see Smart alive when they walked back to their dorms after a party. But it would take decades for authorities to gather enough proof to charge him with Smart's murder. The university police initially led the investigation into Smart's disappearance. Her parents, Stan and Denise, also spent weeks searching for their daughter on their own. Her father posted flyers with the photo of Kristen, who was tall and blonde, throughout the town. He also gathered his own search party to comb nearby hillsides and lakes, and even enlisted the help of a psychic to aid in his search, according to local newspaper reports. And then 2 months after Kristen Smart's vanished, investigators zeroed in on a man they would identify as Flores. Flores' account of the night Smart disappeared had changed. Cal Poly Police Chief Tom Mitchell told reporters at the time, and when the college student was interviewed by police, he had a black eye and scrapes and bruises on his knees. He's definitely involved said Smart's family. Shortly after their initial interviews with Flores, the freshman retained a lawyer and stopped cooperating with investigators. The San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office assumed the lead investigative role in the case a month after she disappeared. During a canine search of campus in the weeks following Smart's disappearance, multiple cadaver dogs alerted in Flores' dorm room, the sheriff told Telegram August 1996. The alerts, coupled with Flores' shifting narrative and injuries, led authorities to declare Smart's disappearance a criminal case and named Flores as a person of interest. But they were still missing a key piece of evidence: Smart's body. Flores and his family were subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury to get statements on the record, but without physical evidence, investigators do not believe they had enough to charge him with Smart's murder. In an interview with CNN 3 years later, after their daughter went missing, Stan and Denise Smart said they hoped they'd one day be able to lay their daughter to rest. Decades later, backyard clues lead to an arrest. For decades, Flores remained a person of interest. After decades, billboards with Smart's face stood like sentinels along Highway 101, silently urging anyone with information to come forward. Driving past billboard would serve as a periodic reminder. After decades, authorities still hadn't found Kristen. Chris Lambert, a podcaster who grew up in the area, said in the first episode on his show, Your Own Backyard. Years later, after reading the Los Angeles Times article on Smart's disappearance, Lambert said that he was stunned to realize he lived near many of the locations in the case. So he began retracing Smart's final steps, interviewing her family, and even speaking with investigators who worked on her case for years. With each episode, his podcast gained traction, and Kristen's name and details surrounding her disappearance drew renewed attention. Meanwhile, investigators continue to work the case after decades with few signs of outward progression. Authorities had their first public breakthrough in 2020. The sheriff's office obtained a warrant to monitor the then 43-year-old Paul Flores' cell phone and messages. In February 2020, detectives served a search warrant at his home, as well as homes of his sister and mother and father, according to a news release. They also recovered physical evidence from Flores' home in April that year later. Then, a year later, in March of 2021, detectives served a warrant at the Arroyo Grande of the Flores' father, Ruben. Detectives used underground penetrating radar and dug the property using hand tools. Additional evidence related to the unaliving of Kristen Smart is discovered at the site. I wonder what that was. You let me know in the comments. Do you know about the Kristen Smart unaliving since 1996? All right, so the trial of Paul and Ruben Flores, they began in July of 2022 and would last for 3 months. Prosecutors argued Paul Flores raped or attempted to rape her and unalived her in her dorm before enlisting his father to help him. Dozens of women have recounted Paul Flores' essays and predatory behavior that document his 25 years of being a serial rapist. All right, so I'm going to mispronounce that person's name, told jurors during Ruben Flores' trial that the searches of his home turned up soil samples that tested positive for human blood. So on October 22, they were found guilty of first-degree M and sentenced to 25 years in life. His father was acquitted of the charges against him, and he told reporters, "Too bad the system works that way, on feelings instead of facts." Well, sometimes that happens. He said that he felt bad for Smart's family because they never got a true answer as to what happened to their daughter. So Wednesday's search of Susan Flores' home renewed the hope that for those with answers of the small town of San Luis Obispo. All right. So there's no new news because that one was 8 hours ago. So there's no new news. But no news is still good news, right? Because they don't know for sure whether or not they have the soil samples that are going to give them anything. So they're still working on it. Some of those things take time. All right, law lovies, guess what? It's been 2 hours. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. We're going to go ahead and take a break here. Apparently, there's going to be a hearing in all of the other defendants in the cases regarding De Los Santos. Okay, so Chancio, De Los Santos, and John Johnson case. Those are all taking place today at 1 o'clock. So we'll be back. Let me know what you think in the comments about today's show. Hope you have a great weekend if you don't come back. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye. And now. All right. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again in just a bit. Bye. Thanks for watching Legalese 123. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more content.